In the last lesson, we learned how to prepare for the topic, a person you admire. So today, you'll hear 3 full Band 7 model answers. We'll move step by step. First, a famous sports personality. Second, a teacher. And finally, someone deeply personal, a family member. After each answer, I will pause and teach you the vocabulary, phrases, and idioms that make it powerful. This way, you not only listen, you learn how to build your own answer. First, sportsman. Let's use Cristiano Ronaldo. Many of you know him. He's a famous soccer player. I like to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, a football or soccer player I've admired for many years. He's world famous for breaking goal scoring records and winning trophies in different countries. What I admire most about him is his discipline. He trains early and harder than anyone else, follows a strict diet, and has a never say die attitude on the field. Even when his team is losing, he keeps fighting until the last whistle. He has really raised the bar in football. Younger players see that talent alone is not enough. Practice makes perfect. Personally, he inspires me to stay consistent in my own life. If he can push himself in training, I can push myself in studying. Let's pause and look closely. So the key vocabulary words are discipline, strict diet, training, regime, consistent. Some of these words we have already discussed in the first video on talk person, where we found different words and vocabulary that we can use in this topic. So discipline, as you know, is self-control. My brother shows discipline by saving money every month. He shows discipline by studying his English lesson every night. Consistent is regular and steady. My brother studies consistently. He does his English homework every night. So here we also see some idioms being used. It's good to learn some idioms, a few idioms so that you can use them in different situations. Some common ones here is never say die attitude. That's very useful. It's refusing to give up. Never say die attitude. The other one was raise the bar, raising the bar, which is setting higher standards. And the common one that you hear a lot of times, but you can make use of it, is practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. The other one, more particular to this topic, is admiration phrases. So, like, what I admire most about Cristiano Ronaldo is what I admire most about him, about her, is this. He inspires me. He inspires me. That's another word very important. He inspires me. He is my inspiration. He inspires me to work hard. So let's quickly practice. Choose someone you admire, a singer, a teacher, or even your father, and say this sentence. What I admire most about my father, my teacher, is this. What I admire most about my father is his kindness. About my teacher is her discipline, is her patience, is her something. That's the first layer. So now let's look closer. Take a step closer from a famous sports person to someone you actually know. For example, your teacher. So I like to talk about my high school English teacher, Miss Lee. She taught me for 3 years in English and had a big influence on my life. She wasn't famous, but in our classroom, she raised the bar. She expected us to write essays every week and practice speaking every day. At first, it felt impossible. It was very difficult, but she showed me that practice makes perfect. What I admire most is her patience and her never say die attitude. Even when students gave up, she never gave up on us. She encouraged me whenever I made mistakes and I slowly gained confidence. She's truly a role model. Because of her, I dared to study abroad. I learned my English and I could study abroad. And I still remember her advice against all odds, keep trying, and you'll see progress. Let's unpack the answer. So here you can see sometimes I do repeat myself to emphasize. For example, if you want to emphasize never say die attitude, you can repeat it twice. She has a famous saying for us, never say die attitude. She tells it almost every week when we are discouraged. Never say die attitude. And the other one was against all odds. I repeated that twice. You remember that? She encouraged me against all odds. Yes, against all odds to keep going and work hard. So the vocabulary words that we used here are influence, the idiom raise the bar, patience, encouraged, gain confidence. So here there are these words that you can practice using. In other situations like, my father had a strong influence on my choice of career. My father has great patience with children. My teacher encouraged me to apply for a new job. My friend encouraged me when I was feeling sad. Practice makes perfect. We heard it again. And the admiration phrases, you hear it again, but it's good because it reinforces your learning. What I admire most is this and this. A role model. She's truly a role model. Because of her, I went to study abroad. So say aloud, because of my teacher, I excelled in English. Say something real to you. Because of someone you admire, your father, your teacher, your sports person. See how this moves us closer from a famous figure to someone who personally guided you. Now let's go one step deeper. Someone from your own family. I'd like to talk about my grandmother, who has always been there. She's always been my role model. She never had a famous career, but she has qualities I admire deeply. She raised 6 children almost single handedly against all odds in a poor village. She worked hard against all odds every day, but also stayed kind hearted and generous. Often she shared food with her neighbors who had less. What I admire most is her resilience and wisdom. Even in difficult times, against all odds, she never complained. She showed a never say die attitude and still inspires me when I face challenges. Because of her, I've learned the value of patience and community spirit. She proves that the true strength is not about money or fame, but about caring for others. I am very encouraged by her. There are new vocabulary words that you can learn and use. For example, single handedly, kind hearted. These are double barreled words. So you've got single and handedly. Join them together and you get single handedly. The next one is kind and heart. Join them together and you get kind hearted. So that's one word. Resilience, wisdom, community spirit. Example of how to use it. My uncle built a small house single handedly, which means my uncle built a small house by himself, alone, one person, single handedly. My father is generous with his time and helps neighbors. My brother showed resilience after losing his job. So your brother was sad, but he recovered after this difficult time. He showed resilience, or he had resilience. Let's revise some idioms. Against all odds, never say die attitude, and role model. So these are idioms that are very useful when you're talking about persons, especially persons that you admire that have good characteristics. And remember the admiration phrases. She has always been my role model. Because of her, because of him, I have learned, I have done something. Yet practice with me. Don't just listen. Say aloud. Because of my mother, I've learned to cook. Because of my grandmother, I have finished it. Okay. Notice how we have built momentum. We started with a sportsman, someone famous, then a teacher, less famous, but someone who guided you, and finally a family member, your grandmother. Could be your father, could be your brother, or your uncle, someone who shaped your values. Each layer is more personal, and that's how you can keep the examiner engaged. So today, we built three answers, three examples, each at a different layer, different level. You have sportsman who shows discipline and raising the bar, teacher who's patient and encouraging, grandmother whose resilience facing all odds in raising her children. Now it's your turn. Write down three people in the different levels that you admire. One famous, one professional, your teacher, your doctor, and one family member. Practice it. Practice 2-minute answers for each. You can write it down first. Think about it. Think about your experience with these people. And in your answers, use at least one admiration phrase, like role model and I admire because of him, and also one or two idioms that will enrich your answers. If you repeat this daily, your fluency, confidence, and vocabulary will grow. And when the examiner says, describe a person you admire, you will be ready.